particles. And whether you're talking about length, mass, energy, or time, you discover that everything in small has a limit to how small it can be. See, you and I would think that if I took a piece of string, I'd cut it in half, no problem. I'd take the half, I could cut it in half. And you would think that conceptually, at least, I could do that it might get too small to literally do, but your thinking is, whatever I've got left, I can cut in half. That turns out to be true. It turns out when you get to 10 to minus 33 centimeters, that's very small, and try to cut that in half, it loses a very peculiar property. It loses a thing called locality. It has what they call non-locality. And it's been proven in the laboratory that every photon in the universe knows exactly what every other photon in the universe is doing in a certain sense. That there's a concept of non-locality that's philosophically shattering. But the main point is there is a limit to smallness. Now, I want you to understand the implications of this. You and I are in an environment that turns out to be a virtual simulation that's a digital simulation. And now, that's not my conclusion. You get Scientific American, June of 2005, there's an article there that highlights this sort of thing. The scientists are disturbed because they're discovering that some of the constants of physics are changing. And it's very hard to prove, and they're working very hard at that, but it's turning out they are. And what the article points out, that if the constants of physics are changing, that implies that our reality is a shadow of a larger reality. That's their words, not mine. And when I saw that, I just jumped for joy, because that's exactly what the Bible has been saying all along. Is that, well, let's see, I think I go a little further. Whoops. No, I think I've spared you a diversion here. There is, the ancient Hebrew sages, Nachmanides, from his study of the book of Genesis, concluded that the universe has 10 dimensions, only 4 are knowable, 6 are not knowable. That's in his writings in the 13th century. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars creating atomic accelerators, which have now revealed to us that the universe has apparently 10 dimensions. 4 are directly discernible. 6 we know are there but can't get at. They're curled less than 10 to the minus 35 centimeters. So we've spent all that money discovering what Nachmanides learned by just studying the Hebrew text of the book of Genesis. And I'm not being facetious, I'm being quite serious. And so we live in a simulation that's limited to 4 direct dimensions we can experience. And by the way, not only is what the Bible says, it lists them in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 18, are 4 dimensions that we have. So it's no surprise to Paul, if you will. But we now also have knowledge that there's 6 other dimensions that we can't get at directly. Now, we can glibly call that the spiritual world or something, and we're going to, more consistently, this physical reality we're in is embedded in something larger, which we'll call the metacosm. And that's the domain when you start studying angels. We have a whole background around that one. And that's what we think, what we suspect, don't know, we suspect, is the domain of the UFOs. Because we now know they're transdimensional. They're not intergalactical, they're transdimensional. And I'll get to that in a little bit here, I think. Our universe is but a shadow of a larger reality. Scientific American, June of 2005. But let's finish up the transhumanism. See, the problem with transhumanism, it ignores the metacosm. People traffic, that's a supernatural. There's supernatural warfare where you and I are both the puppets and the prizes. That's what's going on. The transhumanists are totally oblivious to that. They have no grasp of that. When you open up a communication channel, in our software, we might call it soul, spirit, whatever, it yields access permission that is not reversible. Those of you that saw The Exorcist, that was William Blatty's novel was based on case study. And what started that whole nightmare was a gal playing, it was a guy, not a gal, but that's not the point. It was based on case studies. Fooling around with the Ouija board, which is an entry. And some of these video games and so forth are potentially entries. Let's take a look at the scripture here a little bit. We're all familiar with Nebuchadnezzar's dream of Daniel 2 and also Daniel 7, different set of idioms, but same subject really. And we all know about the 4 empire, the gold, silver, brass, and iron, and the Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. We've all been there. But when you get to verse 43 of Daniel 2, where Daniel is explaining all this to Nebuchadnezzar, he gets to this peculiar stuff called the iron mixed with clay. Everybody remembers the legs are iron and the feet were iron mixed with clay. Verse 43 says, whereas thou sawest, this is Daniel explaining to Nebuchadnezzar, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, he switches to a personal pronoun, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. What's he talking about? Nobody knows. I tell you, we do know. That means that they, whoever they are, have to be something other than the seed of men, or they can't mingle. In other words, the grammar requires them to be two separate, non-mixable groups. So what are they? We don't know. And the personal pronoun is relevant here. And I want you to notice then that the seed of men, they're not the seed of men. They're not mankind. Are they hybrids? Possible. Are they somehow not? See, they're not the seed of men, they're seed of something else. Are they Nephilim? Could be. Or maybe something even more sinister. Are they aliens of some other kind? That's what's so provocative, that the two guys who wrote a book a year ago and published in April of 2012 that predicted the abdication of the Pope, which hadn't happened for 600 years, and then 11 months later, in February of 2013, the Pope abdicates. Those two guys, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam, made the front pages. Well, they've just published another book in April 2013, which reveals the fact the Vatican is committing substantial resources as they prepare to receive what they believe will be an alien visitor of some kind. What on earth is going on? We need to remember that in the scripture, Antichrist isn't a guy, it's a duet. There's two people there involved, the false prophet and the other one. I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth who had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And see, the second beast is from the earth, and so forth. Some people think he's a Jew because of the Greek allusion of this in John 5:43 is allos, not heteros, and that implies he's Jewish. That's not conclusive in my mind, but that's when some of the beliefs come about. And he apparently is received by Israel, among other things, from Psalm 55 and others. But he exercised all the power of the first beast before him. He caused the earth, and he's the one that caused the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, really. And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had the power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, and which had the wound by the sword and did live. You see, the identities are consistent through there. And he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast, really. That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the beast should be killed. Interesting stuff. He gave life to the image of the beast, and so on. Okay. And he caused both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save that he had a mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And there's been a lot of discussion about this. This mark, by the way, is prohibited all through the Torah and elsewhere. But whose number? See, everybody gets confused about this. You hear articles about insertable chips and nanopower when I was on their board, all that kind of talk, RFID chips, barcodes for implementation. They miss the point. It's not our number that's the issue, it's his number that's at issue. And it's his name that are the crucial identity aspects, not the participants here. And and there's a whole study on that you can get into if you like. But most of what's written is missed the point. But the thing I really want you, before you get too disturbed about transhumanism, I want to go the other way and talk about God, places when he limits boundaries and the limits to human arrogance. God does put a line in the sand. Back in Genesis 11, I want you to remember that chapter. The whole earth at that time was one language and one speech, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east, they found a plain on the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And this plain of Shinar is where Babylon emerges, of course. And they said one to another, go and let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime they only had for mortar. They said, go, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name that lest we be scattered upon the face of the earth. And so that you all know about the Tower of Babel. But I want you to notice the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. See, the unpardonable sins, to use that phrase, not to make that identity, but the thing that God would not allow is giving them the freedom to do anything they could imagine to do. There's a point at which they draw the line. And by the way, who's he talking to here? It's a conversation within the Trinity, analogous, if you will, to Psalm 2, where all three of them are having a discussion. Check it out if you haven't done that before. God says, go to, let us, plural us, by the way. By the way, did you know in Hebrew how many it takes to make a plural? In English, it's 2. In Hebrew, it's 3. I thought that's kind of interesting. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence on the face of the earth. And they left off to build a city. So let us go down. I think that's fun. And that's the bidding of Babel and all that. Okay, let's shift here. We've talked a little bit about this. Oh boy. Well, let me skip right to it here. I think I've touched on these enough. The ultimate enigma that you and faith, the interval between the miracle of our origin and the mystery of our destiny. That's our challenge continually. But I made an allusion earlier that I want to double back on here. I said I couldn't see you, that you're in temporary hardware. There's an analogy I want to draw between computers and ourselves. We all know that computer has hardware, microcircuits, memory, wires, whatever. And there's also software. There's a user interface, there's internal interfaces, there's machine language, what have you. If you knew everything there is to know about every wire, every resistor, every piece of hardware that's in my computer, could you tell me anything about its behavior? And the answer is no, not really, because it's simply a residence for software, right? And I want to draw that analogy. You see, the software are other things, but that's fine. I always like to use this slide. The slide represents the hardware of man. It's very simple, as a switch that's on and off, right? Whoops, it switched for me, huh? Okay. Did I get it right? You got the complicated, I didn't see it here. It went too fast for me here. Okay, good, we'll leave that alone. Okay. But to be serious a little bit, there is a parallel between the hardware in our physical body and software and our actual self. The real you, whether, set the vocabulary aside, whether it's soul, spirit, mind, your thoughts, whatever, that collectively is software, not hardware. And the thing I want to get across is software is not material. Software is information. It has no mass in and of itself. A light switch weighs the same whether the switch is on or off. The 1 or 0 it has no. And can I see if I get going here? Now, if I take a memory device, I'm using a diskette here, that's blank, okay, and I put that on a postal scale, it has nothing on it, it will weigh about 7/10 of an ounce. I can spend hundreds of dollars and load it with millions of bytes of software, and what will it weigh? Okay, well, if I add that all up, it still will weigh 7/10 of an ounce. In other words, there's no change. The software has no mass. Are you with me? Okay, I can even take software and send it through the airwaves, can I? Right? See, the implication of that is time is a property of mass, with mass. If it has no mass, it has no time dimension to it. Okay? Now, That's the physics of software. It has no mass. See, the weight of a storage device is not impacted by the presence of the software. It can even be sent through the airwaves. Software is not constrained by time. Time is a physical property that varies with mass, acceleration, and gravity, among other things. See, your destiny is eternal, whether you are saved or not. The real you is software, not hardware. I can't see you. I can only see the package you happen to be in at the moment. Software has no mass. Now, my package has a little too much mass, but it has nothing to do with my software. Okay. Now, you are temporarily resident in a package, in a disposable hardware environment. The real you has no mass. Your temporary container may have too much mass, but the real you requires no time dimension. You are eternal, whether you are saved or not. That'll disturb a lot of theologians here. The issue is not your eternity. The issue is, where are you going to spend it? And Walter Martin used to point out there's two paths to God, to heaven. One path is that you never make a mistake. From the time you're born on, you never sin, you never fumble, you have no sin at all. You go through your whole life without sin. And then when you get to the pearly gates, you tell God, move over, there's two of us. And of course, he was being facetious, as was his style, just to get a point across. No, we're not perfect, but the good news is God himself, knowing that, entered his creation and paid our price for us. You know all that here. So if you're perfect, there's no problem. But it's time for all of us, I'm going to suggest, is to renew our citizenship. And one of the most difficult things people ask me, what's happening to America? Boy, I don't know. There's a whole other topic we could explore, and that is the encroaching darkness and the fact that all the things that made our country great up through the 40s, 50s, 60s maybe is gone. We do not have a constitutional government. We do not have freedom of speech. We do not have a Bill of Rights. And that's all been, what's amazing isn't that it's happened. What's amazing is that nobody cares. Nobody notices. The apathy, partly because the entire middle class has gone